What's up, Mananap? Welcome to this welcome to today's discussion or to this tutorial by Code Conyu. By the way, I'm now down to my last constraint SQL constraint topic, which is foreign key. So by the way, foreign key is one of the most is also one of the most important SQL script or SQL constraints you would need to learn because this is going to enforce referential integrity between our tables in our database. For example, we have here the table owner, the table gender, as well as we have here the table pets. So owner, pet, and gender. And as we get to plan this, uh, the gender, the owner, and table pet are going to be related with each other. Because I have here owner ID, name, and age in a separate table, and then for table gender and gender title, and then I have here the pet with this ID, name, type, age, pet price, gender ID, and owner ID. And as you can see in the ABL gender, I'm going to relate or create a relationship. No, I want to establish the connection between gender to TBL pet, which means that for every table in a gender, okay, for every record in a gender or value in a gender, that is the only thing I can actually add here in TBL pet, which is gender ID. So I'm going to establish that connection. So the same with the owner. Whatever the values of my names here in the owner, or whatever the values of the owner of my owner table are also going to be the only values allowed to be inserted in my TBL pet, which is connected with each primary key. That's why primary key and foreign key are really married with each other. You can only establish connection um, like creating a foreign key uh, to another table if that table is actually a primary key of another table. So primary key, it uniquely identifies a certain row. So gender ID is a primary key. You have here a unique key. That's why it's still a key. And then you have there an owner ID, which is also a primary key. And gender ID and owner ID are actually what we call foreign key. They are not fields originally from here, from this table pet, like gender and owner ID respectively. Their values comes from these tables right here. So that's why they are called foreign key. No, it is only used to build up or establish a strong relationship between these tables. Okay, so whenever you again there is scenario wherein if you don't establish a connection within like for gender. So right, let's say for an instance, gender is just a like a normal table column here in the TBL pet. So you can every user can actually type whatever value in that gender. So you have male, female, transgender, trans woman. What if you restrict the users from entering any value? Like you are only going to allow users or the user of the database to insert or to add a record which is only set to that particular value. Meaning to say, if I have only here male and female, that's the only thing I can actually set or assign to my table pet. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So let's now head to our right here. So I'm going to describe my all of some of the tables that we have created. So I have a table pet. I have also here DBL like DBL owner and I have here described DBL gender. Okay, so both of all these tables have primary key, which is pet ID of 12. It's not actually primary key, so I'm going to change this one later on. For my owner, I don't have also primary key, and then for my gender ID, I have here primary. So I'm going to change the table. So alter table So while waiting, now before you can actually like I would suggest before you actually do this, make sure that you have plan really well your database, your ARD. So that's why it's in the level of database design. So the creation of ARD is of conceptualization level or the conceptual level, and then the creating relationship is of logical level, and then making it like having now a storage is now of physical level. So what we are doing now is in logical going to physical level. So add primary key, let's say pet ID. Okay, pet ID. Alter table DBL pet, add primary key, pet ID. So let's describe the table pet first. Okay. So with this one, we'll just have to delete or truncate, by the way, all of these the records. Kasi we'll need to do this before we can establish connection. So again, you cannot establish connection if there are already records in the table. So, well, you can, but however, there are instances that you can't. Okay, you can actually experience those. You can try actually. So TBL gender, my gender is okay na. So truncate TBL. Okay. So sige, I have your TBL gender. All right. So everything is already emptied. So this time I'm going to describe my TBL pet. Let's say why it's not. I want this table to alter TBL, add primary key pet ID. I want this to be primary key. So I'm going to describe the table pet now. So it becomes primary key. So I'm now going to describe my TBL owner. So it says that it's not so yeah, so far for this time I seems like our owner has actually different, I mean it has instead of owner ID pet name something like that. So let's change this one, alter table, change uh, pet ID, pet name, pet ID to like owner ID. So, and then after change pet ID, owner ID in, let's say 12, and can we do this? Or to be safe, let's have this one, modify, okay, happen. Alter table, sorry, we don't have TBL owner. So, change there. So we have here owner, pet name, to pet name to owner name, have here car 30, and then we have here for gender. Okay, for our gender we'll need to change this to like um yeah, so anyway, we can, I mean I have actually a lot of in my mind, so I mean gusto na ko siya i-ano tanan. But yeah, so let's say let's have here gender yeah, let's have here gender na lang, okay? And then gender ID or like okay, change pet gender, sorry. Pet gender to gender ID. Okay, so gender ID to let's say int, let's 12. All right. And then I'm also going to change the age to owner age. Okay, so this time it's tiny int. All right, so I'm going to describe my TBL owner now. So TBL owner. Okay, so there you are. I have already here owner ID, owner name, gender ID, and owner age. The same with TBL, my TBL pet. So I've already set it. So ID, pet name, pet gender, and pet age. Okay, so for me to establish connection with, so let's say I'm going to establish connection with the gender ID to pet my pet gender, which is it's actually in a character, so I'll need to change that also. So I'll yeah. By the way, to make sure that if you're going to establish a connection between two tables, make sure that the data types are the same for this two for the tables that you are going to relate. So alter table TBL, say pet gender, modify uh, pet gender, pet gender int, let's say, uh, alter table TBL pet, change, hmm, pet gender, change, sorry, nauna ang pet gender, or sige, modify na lang, modify. So let's describe the TBL gender again, the same with the TBL pet. So we are going to establish connection between gender ID and then the gender ID or the table gender, which is using gender ID to the gender TBL pet, which is in the pet gender. So to do that, we can alter the table. So since we have already created the table, we'll need to use alter table uh, to the way. So alter table TBL pet, we add foreign key, foreign key. Okay, so let's say that is pet gender. Okay, references TBL gender. Then you have here gender ID. So this time, this SQL script now is going to create or establish a strong relationship between the table pet as well as error ako ng pangalan sa table pet, as well as the pet gender using a desired or a column. Okay. So since pet in my TBL pet, the name of my column is pet gender. So I would need to use that. Okay. And then I'm going to reference it to my TBL gender with the gender ID primary. So I'm going to hit enter and there. So I'm now going to describe the table pet. So you have here molt means it's going to have multiple values to it. Multiple. Okay. So I would suggest that whenever you are going to create or to establish a connection between a table, I would suggest whatever the name of that table, whatever the name of that column as a primary key, it should be the same name in the relating table or in the table where you actually want to create to relate it. Example, in my case, I have your foreign key, pet gender, and then gender ID. It's not actually the same, so a little bit confusing. But with my gender and with my TPL owner, I guess they are actually the same. But again, it still work. I mean, it still work. It doesn't matter. However, for convenience, I would suggest you do this. So in my case, I have your gender ID, okay, and I would want to relate this or create a relationship between my gender ID to the table gender ID. Also the same with what I did here in my TPL pet. So to do that, I'm going to alter my table owner. Okay, and then owner. Then we have here TBL owner, and then add a foreign key of foreign key. Okay, lowercase or uppercase, it's the same. Owner key. So we have gender ID. So now it would be easier for me to create references, okay, or to create foreign key references. DBL gender. Then I have here gender ID. Okay, so I'm going to hit this enter. I'm going to describe my TBL owner now. I have here multiple. Okay, multiple. So let's head back to the PHP my admin. So if we go here and then let's go to what was that? What was it was a pet shop, I guess. So and then you go to designer. Okay. So you have here so you have here let's remove this one of shop and then go to designer. Let's have here was it this one or my pet? Wait. I guess this is my pet pala. My pet. Okay, there. So let's move this one. I mean, let's collapse this one. I collapse ba? Yeah. So, yeah, expand. So it creates a relationship between our table pet and table. I mean, both the pet and the gender now, or the pet and the owner now has a relationship with our gender. So meaning to say, uh, we are actually I would analyze this that whenever the values of like gender here, like we have name, we have male, female, that's the only thing you can add to gender ID in the table owner as well as with the table. And in this case, you are actually saving some memory space, okay? But not with the RAM. It's actually because we'll need to do like most of the time we'll need to do join statements here, which is discussed in the future topics. Okay, so let's save this as ARD and then go so that whenever we visit this time again, it would have the same parang structure. Okay, now let's go head back going to our table owner now, and then we are going to create also relationship with the owner and then the table. Okay, so we're going to create a relationship with the owner and the table. And how do we do that? So upon describing our table, we don't have the gender here. I mean the owner here. So meaning uh, the every pet has owner. Okay, or may have an owner may have one or many pets, something like that. So owner and pet. So for us to relate or to actually create relationship or establish a connection between them is we'll need to uh, add the pet a another column which is alter table TBL pet, add column or add na lang, yeah. So pet, let's say owner ID, okay, and let's say we have here int 12, okay, and then alter table tbl pet add owner ID. So let's try this one if uh, foreign tbl gen owner ID references tbl owner, and we have owner ID. So let's do this if this will work. So we are adding table. owner ID with the integer type, and then we expect to create a relationship between uh, this owner and table pet tables with the owner ID. Okay, so it seems like it's not actually working. So uh, use foreign key, add, maybe not working. So let's have a separate SQL statement for that. Actually, this would work, but anyway, alter table and then add foreign key, and the owner ID, owner ID references owner ID. Have here DBL owner. Okay, so what happened? So alter table TBL pet, add foreign key, owner ID references TBL owner ID. Uh, let's check our table. So this might we might have problems with the pet. We have owner ID, okay, and then describe TBL owner. Okay, I have here owner ID. So um, okay. Okay. Because the owner, it's not actually a primary key. So I need to alter another. So I'm going to create another tutorial for this one. But this one is good because I do the live coding. So alter table TBL owner, and then uh, add foreign key. Okay. And the owner ID. So owner ID. So add alter TBL owner, add foreign key, add primary key. What happened to me? Add primary here. So I'm now going to invoke this SQL statement, alter table, add foreign key, owner ID reference says TBL owner. So what happened earlier was, since as I've said earlier, make sure that the table that you're relating to it must have a primary key, and then before you can actually establish a connection or relation to it to another table. There, it's okay. So we can now describe the TBL pet. So it's actually because of the D there. So I have here molt. So for my pet gender and owner ID. Okay. So now whenever I'm going to insert a table to my pet, insert into TBL pet values, I have here 101, and then let's say name, pet name. So Alice. And then I have here pet gender. Let's say I'm going to add here 1. So since we have created a relationship between the gender and the pet, which is as you can see here, it's an int type. So therefore we have to use 1 or 2 or whatever is stored in there. So the same with the owner. So owner, I mean, you have here, let's say 102 or 101 or 102, it depends. So now this will not be processed successfully. It's because of the references. So that's what I meant of foreign key. So this would guarantee that you cannot store a value that's value that is or that are not present in the table relating to it. So what we need to do is we have to insert table records first to the both gender table as well as the owner table. So to do that, describe the TBL gender first and describe insert value to it. So insert into TBL gender values. Have here like, so since it's auto increment, I will have here null. Sige, ako mag-assign na to 1, and then male, sorry, male, Okay. And then I'm going to add another, let's see, female. So I have here two. All right. So I'm also going to insert a record in my owner. So let's say owner values. So, but before that, I'm gonna be describing first my owner, DBL. So since I have already here, so insert into TBL owner, so values. So you have here owner ID, let's say 201. Let's start with 201, and then owner is, let's say, Mark, and then on gender ID. So I can now make use of like one or two because I already inserted it in my in my DBL gender. So it's actually right here. So I have one for male and I have two for female. So I'll need to use one or two, not male or female. Okay, so because it says here that the relationship is with the primary key, which is of int type. Okay, and this also requires an int type. Okay, so right here I have male and then owner age, so let's say 12. So I'm going to add more records. So Anna, okay, and then let's say 2, and then 14, and then let's have here 203, and then 10, and then 1, and then 24. Okay, so select from DBL owner. So okay. Hi there, TVL owner, and then I also want to with my gender. So again, since we have all here the gender ID one and two only, whenever I'm going to insert a non parang out of range or parang let's say three instead of one and two, I cannot do this in my table. So because yeah, it's duplicate entry. 204. So cannot add or update a child row foreign key blah blah blah. So that's it. No, so when you a few note lang no when you are going to establish connection and then you want to edit or change the structure of your table, you will have to truncate everything before you can remove the relationship. Okay, truncate the records or every table that is going to be affected, and then you go back with the relationship, which is again going back to adding foreign key to it. Okay, so this time it should be only between 2 and 3. All right, so let's now go back to our pet. Select from TBL pet. So we have an empty set. Let's describe the TBL pet. So TBL pet. So there, so we can now insert records to it, insert into TBL pet values. Now this time we're gonna be using the first 101, and then let's say we have Arya, okay? And then I have here the pet gender. In my pet gender, I can only add either one or two. So let's say since Arya is a female, then I have here the age, let's say 13, and then the owner ID is either 201, 202, or 203. Let's say since I want this to be an ownership of 201, let's say Mark owns this pet, so 201, okay, there. So I'm going to select the table TBL pet. So right here, you have here Arya as your pet, 101 with the with female, so pet age 13 and owner ID 201. Now, this would mean that whatever is the relationship or whatever is the value of this gender, which is believed to be female, it's actually relating as a female value, or for this owner ID it's also going to relate the information of this particular record 201, which is marked with the gender ID male and 12. So of course for now we this seems to be like confusing and dili siya meaningful because you are presenting digits rather than the actual values or the actual the title that is like name like instead of male or female and instead of mark here, but uh, we can actually do that by using SQL joins, which is in our succeeding topics no, in the next week probably. So if we're going to add another records to it, so make sure, let's say this one is summer, and then you have here two, let's say summer is a male, and then age, and then let's say we have 202. Okay, so this time naman, this is the ownership of Anna. Okay, so now, if you keep on adding, let's say you have here um, Ben as a pet, and then one, and then two, still, this is, let's say, ownership pa rin of Mark or Anna. So right here, if you're going to select, this would mean that both Summer and Ben are actually ownership of 202, which is Anna. Okay. So if you note again, when you want to remove foreign key for the tables that you have already created or something like nag-establish na relationship, it's based on experience, it would be difficult for you to remove because you'll need to remove all the records of the table uh, tables that are affected. Okay? So, kasi na mo strong relationship. The same thing with having a strong relationship with other person, no? It would be difficult for you to move on. So, with that, or having said that, you really need to plan well your database, your ERD before taking it into converting it into a physical structure now, or in this query something thing. Okay, so let's go back to our database, or in the PHP My Admin. It's actually going to upon going to the designer, you have here the TBL owner and TBL pet. TBL gender with the relationship to owner and pet, and then owner and pet has also relationship. This is actually one to many, one to many, one to many, or many to one, and many to one records. Okay, so I guess that would be all for now, and thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. See you guys. Bye bye.